Welcome to the Cartography of Memory, an actual play of the electric state from Stories with Dice. If you're enjoying our actual plays, please subscribe to Stories with Dice so you'll never miss an episode. Don't forget to rate and review us. It really helps others discover the podcast. Follow us on social media to stay updated. You'll find the relevant links in the description of each episode.
Welcome to another episode of Stories of Dice and us. I believe we're the Star Trek crew.
We're the Star Trek crew, that's right, except you're the GM now.
I know. We're going to do something very different, and it's not Star Trek.
Well, actually, minus Tony. Tony was in our Star Trek game too, wasn't he?
Yeah. Good point. Okay, no Tony. So it's Star Trek Light. No Captain. Sorry, guys. So what we're doing this session, or this next few sessions, we're going to be doing the Electric State from Free League. Some of you may have seen the film. It's not really like the film, but the film does take a slice of the Electric State and kind of runs with it in its own way, as am I going to in this one. It's an art book, or it was originally an art book by a visual artist named Simon Stalenhag, who's done quite a lot of really cool artwork for this and for Tales from the Loop and some other stuff. So it's got some really nice visuals, which hopefully we can I'll do my best to kind of give you during the course of the story. But yeah, essentially it's about a game of, or it's a story about a journey of people in this sort of alternate 1997. Things have happened. The world is going to shit. Armageddon's just around the corner. But instead of it being a big bang, it's more of a slow dying whimper as everyone is kind of just slowly dying. So this really kind of explores finding out who you are, finding out what's going on in the sort of like history, I suppose, and just asks odd, weird questions. So we're going to try and do that. I've listened to a few other actual play podcasts, which I really liked with the Electric State. I hope I can do as well as them, but we'll try. It's a very different sort of take to that. So we're going to do something a little bit different. Hopefully, you'll enjoy it. The people who, if you're listening to this, you're going to enjoy it. If not, switch off now, do something else, do the washing up, I don't know, maybe paint a room, or do that, but listen to us. Well, then it doesn't matter.
So yes, listening, that's the main point.
That is the key thing, like, subscribe, all the usual stuff, right? Well, I'm not going to say that. Wait, I've said it. Damn it. So yes, I think we'll kind of make a start. It's a sort of a limited sort of number of sessions. We'll see how well we get on, and hopefully we'll do that. So let's go all weird and melancholy and
none of us have ever played this game before. Ed has never GM'd it before. So, and we are all going to stumble our way through this and have a good time doing it.
Yeah, we're going to actually play the shit out of this.
Yeah.
So, right, let's start then. So I have a primer for you all. The name of this journey is called The Cartography of Memory. I'm just going to read this to you. This is something I've already passed to the players previous to this. Across the abandoned outposts and fractured broadcasts of a forgotten California, something stirs. A signal half sung, half remembered. You've each heard pieces of it, fragments of lives, not quite your own, echoes that bind you in a mystery older than your recollection. Your journey begins with voices hidden in static and deepens into choices etched in forgotten identity and possibility. You'll traverse a landscape shaped not by geography, but by emotion and memory. What you remember will guide you. What you forgot may define you. This is a road trip across memory and meaning, where the terrain itself shifts in response to what you feel and who you're becoming. Every step writes a story. The question is, whose? That's our introduction to the story. At this point, I'm going to ask each of the players to just give me a little bit of background behind them and just give us a little history, a little something. And now I know that Marco has prepared something earlier. So, Marco, shall we start with you?
So I'm a drone pilot named IG-88. Yeah, I named myself after that blink, and you missed it, assassin droid from The Empire Strikes Back. Do you see where I'm going with this? No? Well, let me spell it out for you. I'm on a bus with a guy named Roger. Haven't let him out of my sight since Raymond, the private investigator I hired to find him, tracked him down a month ago. Why Roger? Well, I was a drone pilot in the war. Some politician thought it was a good idea to send war machines to police a civilian protest. Things went sideways, fast. It was a massacre. Roger's father was there. I'll never forget the look in his eyes just before I killed him. After the war, I tried everything. Therapy, meds. Nothing worked. Nothing except the neuroscape. That's why I stay inside this gaming drone. I feel safe with my mind inside this device. More importantly, other people are safe from me. I mean, look at me. I'm a stupid toy. Totally harmless. I do wonder what'll happen to my mind when my human body dies. And I want to find out. But not before I try to set things right with Roger. That's why I'm here. He doesn't know what I did. Neither does Raymond. I'm here to try to fix things. It's the least I can do. But lately I've been picking up something on the broadcasts, fragments of data and memories, voices, lost in static. Some caught the day of the massacre. And there's something else. A memory, not my own. A civilian in that crowd, someone who survived. Someone who knew my missing mother. I don't know what it means yet, but I'm going to find out.
Amazing. Douglas.
Okay, so I'm Roger. For the last quite a few years, I've just been traveling around Pacifica. Used to be just driving by myself, but then when the money started running out, I thought I would try my hand at making some money from my traveling, whereas why I got hold of a bus and started just trucking people around this state after everything started going to heck in a handbasket. Many years ago, I used to have a proper job, proper sort of like white picket fence, that sort of thing. Then it all kind of went wrong and I started traveling. Unfortunately, things are a bit hazy from back then. And since he started traveling, he just doesn't speak anymore. He's gone mute. It makes things awkward for him, but he gets by and he's learned how to deal with it. Yeah, there's this recently, when traveling around in the bus and that sort of thing, he's been picking up these radio signals on the radio late at night, which he doesn't really know why, but they're making him reflect back on his life from before, when he was the white picket fence life, and he doesn't really think about that time anymore, but he feels for some reason drawn back to sort of like go back to that time in his life. Now, the house he originally had is long gone, or at least whatever, but there is like a holiday home that he used to have up in the sort of like mountains of California, which he feels sort of like that would be a good place to maybe go to try and reconcile these feelings or whatever. But all of a sudden, a month ago, this robot turned up and hasn't really left him alone, and he's a bit unsure about it. But he's not letting that bother him at the moment. And as he said, once again, he's going to make a journey, but he might as well make some money from it. So he's put around some adverts saying, I'm heading off to Lone Pines, which is where near sort of like town where the cabin used to be. And the robot has decided to come along. He doesn't know why. The robot just seems to stick around. And then also this Raymond guy who turned up like a month or so ago is also coming along with a few other people.
Thank you very much. Carmelo.
Raymond Axelrod. Once upon a time, I was a proper gumshoe back in San Francisco pounding the beat. I remember how it was before. Or do I really remember? I'm not sure. But I do remember she was there. Or was she there? I don't know. I would wake up some days and she would be gone. And I would spend time searching for her in between jobs. I would go down to the bay, watch the vessels against the glittering silt banks, glittering in the light of a low sun as though a handful of stars had fallen from the sky and accumulated on the shoreline in clusters. The ocean water would ripple back and twinkle in response like a silent conversation. But she's in the back of my mind, in my memory. sometimes these days, since the big shit happened, I might hear her on my hand radio. The batteries aren't about to die, or I think I hear her, I don't know. But there's IG-88. I knew him before as well, before the big shit. And, well, I guess that's his story to tell. But he called me up, found me actually, down and out as I usually am, drunk in a bar, or what remains of a bar, and what they call whiskey. I'm not sure what it's made out of these days. Set me on course to find Roger for a particular reason. A reason that is all his own. Me, I'm just along to try and put the pieces back together again of what was in my head and who she was, if she even existed. So I take the job. I go where I need to go. I'm pretty good at what I do. And everything else, if it falls into place, it falls into place. But let's go deeper into the shit. Here we are.
Okay, well, thank you very much. Now, Roger, who has the bus, you have enough space for everyone to sort of bring a couple of items with you. You are currently driving from Pismo Bay, which I believe you know well-ish.
Pismo Beach, I believe.
Pismo Beach. Thank you very much. Well, there we go. We'll start off with that. And you'll be making your way up through into Lone Pines, which is, under normal circumstances or before everything turned to shit, probably a half a day drive. Now, though, with the wonders of your bus, is more like a couple of days drive. If you're lucky, you might be able to make it in a day if everything goes well. If not, then you might stop at a motel or something along the way and park up for the night. But anyway, I digress. You have with you 2 other people on the bus who is also coming along with this journey, but we'll talk about them in a bit. There is a list of items that you've got. You have already created characters. You've already created backstories for you. But before you go on this journey, the key thing I want to do is there is a list on page 63 of the book. You can pick one of those items to take with you. And this is just some gear that you can have to hand that anyone can access that might help you during the course of this journey. What is that gear that IG-88? Because we don't know what your real name is. What's IG-88 going to take?
Maybe I'd take tools for my Neurocaster so that I could repair it.
Okay, that's brilliant. So you got tools for your Neurocaster. What about Raymond? What's Raymond going to take with him?
Raymond is wavering between binoculars and a bottle of hard liquor.
Dude, you're taking the bottle of hard liquor. Come on.
Yeah, I'm taking the bottle of hard liquor. It's sort of like the metaphor for my whole life.
After that character intro, you're taking the bottle of hard liquor.
No problem.
Yep.
And Roger.
So, shared stuff. Maybe, I was going to say, is there tools general? Do they just work on anything?
There is a general tools for pretty much repairing most things.
I'll just take tools general, I suppose, then.
There is a vehicle tool, tools vehicle.
Well, I would like to say no, it would also work for the other stuff as well, just in case.
Okay.
But
okay, that's brilliant. Well, in fact, Douglas, having never been to Pismo Beach, but you have, give me a description of Pismo Beach, but add a electric state feel to it.
Okay. So, Pismo Beach, from what I remember of it, it's a smallish town that, at least when I visited it, is kind of past it. No offense to anyone who's listening to the podcast who lives in Pismo Beach. I am apologizing for... There you go. Disclaimer, and it's kind of past its prime, like even before you put on the sort of electric state aesthetic. It used to be sort of a very popular surfing sort of thing, but that was more in the 60s and that sort of thing. It does sort of have like these sort of like small town shops and that sort of thing, but has seen it's all a bit out of date, even by like the 90s standards. So now that sort of like out of date stuff is now pretty much decrepit and whatnot. But once again, maybe like it would have been a nice surfing spot. But nowadays they have the remnants of like those big drones just sitting in the surfs that you find all the way down like Big Sur on the sort of like coastline that are from like the war.
Yep.
Which probably just ruined the sort of like surf economy because it's a big sort of like wave breaker. Everything's a bit run down. The sort of like people who are left around here are like the people who are here forever pretty much.
Everyone who was going to go up and coming, not that that's much of a thing anymore, probably has moved to San Francisco or Los Angeles.
Yeah, or LA's just down like a couple hours down the coast,
Yeah,
maybe, or something like that.
Down the coast.
They also used to. The other thing that used to be here, but has kind of fallen away, is it used to be, I believe there's a special sort of breeding ground for a certain type of butterfly, whatnot. But that sort of like, nobody cares about that sort of thing in the sort of like fallen thing. But you can see sort of like lots of things in the town, maybe to do with like butterflies or like that sort of aesthetic. So maybe like this, you could get from like the local stores or the touristy things, you'd get surfer stuff, or you'd be able to get like these pictures of butterflies.
That probably is something that is still going on, but now they have digital migrations instead of actual migrations. So there is small robots of butterflies that kind of work half the time, which people can go and see. But as you said, it is a little rundown. It is a little past its prime, which is probably a good way to describe it.
Robot butterflies is probably operated by the CIA.
Probably. Or more likely, Centro.
Right, yes.
Who owns it?
Yeah.
The CIA.
It was butterflies. I'm trying to remember now. Anyway.
Well, it is
an
now.
hour one it is, let's say.
It definitely is now butterflies. But that's where you're going to get onto this bus. Now, is that because, Roger, this is where you live? Which is where you come from? Or are you just passing through?
This is probably just the latest stop on his sort of like tour of just whatever. So this is probably where he's been for like 3 or 4 months, maybe, which has probably been why people have been able to find him, because he's usually pretty mobile.
Okay, that makes sense. And so what have you put in your poster or your advertisement to say, hey, I'm off to Lone Pines, where do you need to go, or where do you need to get to?
Yeah. Probably just, let's say, it'll be probably just pretty basic information on it, just like there will be a bus trip leaving from Pismo Beach to Lone Trees and the thing. If you wish to, please turn up outside the whatever tourist shop at this time on this date. Okay. Please bring your own food and whatever.
Sure. Well, it's this time and that date when you arrive. Now, under normal circumstances, this is where you would ask the other players what their goal is to get to Lone Pine. But we already know from both Margot and Carmelo that they're basically stalking you. So they're going there because that's where you're going, which is pretty straightforward for me. Now, at Pismo Beach, it's raining. It's that horrible light rain that comes in off of the shore. It doesn't make it any cooler. It's still hot. It's still humid. When you are at your bus, which is sort of off red color, it's a short bus. You are waiting by your bus and waiting for the 4 people who said they were going to come along when you have someone turn up. Carmelo, can you describe your character and what do you do when you're getting on board the bus?
Well, I'm a thin scarecrow of a man. My mid-40s, slightly gray at the temples, bit of a Roman nose, and I kind of scowl and smell like cigarettes, even though I haven't smoked one in a long time. You know, they aren't around very easily. They're not easy to get these days. When I'm getting on the bus, I'm waiting for further direction from IG-88. I've accomplished the mission that I was originally hired for, which is to find Roger. So now, beside my own personal desire to go to this place, I'm coming along at the assistance of IG-88 for further help along the way. I may be needed to look into things that may be beneficial to us or save our lives.
Is there any interaction between you and Roger?
At the moment, not much. We just sort of kind of like acknowledge each other's existence at the moment, but we haven't really spoken a lot yet.
Presumably, Roger, you'll take said money that is owed for the trip, but you presumably aren't very engaging because you're mute. So, you go and sit down. You're followed very swiftly by a short man who is fairly stocky, but he's got a bit of a cheeky grin to himself. He's wearing all black. He's got like a black bomber jacket, black jeans, and he has a large, grey, tanned dog with him. tells the dog to sit, and the dog very obediently sits, and he says, "Good daddy." He says, Is this the bus to Lone Pine?"
Yeah, Roger will just nod and then just sort of give a sort of gesture over to him to be like, "And you?" If I don't know exactly who this person is.
Yeah, he goes into his wallet and hands you some cash for the trip. And says, "I'm Paul, and you don't mind the dog coming aboard?" He's very well behaved. "Great, daddy, up." And the dog looks at you with these bright blue eyes. The dog has an intensity that you have not seen since the shit hit the fan. You kind of figured that if the dog wanted to, it would quite easily rip your throat out at the lightest, indicator from Paul. But
large dog.
it's a fairly large dog. It's sort of, when it sits down, its head is probably at just above Paul's waist.
Yeah. Like Alsatian German Shepherd size.
Yeah. It's Press is the name of the dog. And it kind of gets up, it makes its way onto the bus, as does he, and he says, "Thank you very much," shakes your hand. "If you need anything, just ask." And he walks to the back of the bus where the dog and him sit down. And then you're followed by IG-88.
He waves. So, Douglas, does Roger have like a notepad that he writes on when he's communicating with people?
Not very often. It varies in the situation. He just doesn't really, not very talkative person unless.
Yep. Yeah. So IG-88 is a gaming drone. He's an elite trooper gaming drone. So he's probably about, I imagine, Hobbit sized in terms of height. Small. He's got a totally round head. His metal body is like all white, but it's got a bunch of scratches in it, and he has like one red eye that kind of looks like that HAL 9000 kind of plate with the red dot in the center. That's what he has for an eye. And he's got a gun. He has a submachine gun, which he has strapped to on his shoulder. And he just comes on board, hands you some cash, and sits in the chair directly behind the driver's seat.
Kind of like where a kid would sit, kind of thing.
Yeah.
And then just afterwards, a lady comes aboard and she says, "Hello, I'm Tiffany. Nice to meet you." And she shakes your hand. She says, "Lone Pine, is that correct?"
Roger nods.
Excellent. That's really good. I can't wait. I haven't been on the bus for such a long time. And I saw a recommendation that you did a really good job with a friend of mine. She's really, really happy with your service. And so I'm really happy. It's really nice to meet you. And she sort of like shakes your hand.
Yeah, Roger gives a thumbs up.
And she hands over some money. You very quickly notice there is a lot more money in that purse that she's got. But she kind of gives you the money, and she goes and sits down on one of the chairs.
Okay.
That is your full complement of people for the bus.
All right. I'll hang around outside until give it another 15 minutes to see if anyone else turns up.
What is the vehicle like?
As you said, it's a sort of American-style school bussy, short bus thing, but it's red colours. The paint's probably at this point peeling a bit. You said does it have any sort of writing on the side of it or anything specific?
Unless you put something on there.
I was going to say correctional facility, but that would be a bit too much.
I mean, maybe deep down underneath the red that there is some there's some odd writing that maybe comes through that might say correctional facility. That's fine.
Possibly.
Does that mean there's still mesh on the windows? If it was from a correctional facility?
Yeah. Why not? It does feel some of the windows still have the original mesh, and some of it's just fallen off. Maybe.
Okay.
Whatnot.
How is it decorated inside?
Well, based on the original sort of thing, it's probably pretty sparse with these weird sort of hooks on the floor.
Okay, I like that.
Wonder what those were about.
What does it smell like inside the bus?
Probably a bunch of people have lived inside this bus for a while. Sort of petrol diesel-y smell as well from the engine, maybe.
And how does it handle them?
It's probably a bit of a pig to drive. Whatchamacallit, maybe if there was power steering on this thing, it's kind of not 100% working anymore, so it is a bit of just a million turns to get anywhere.
Okay. Right, well, You wait for the allotted amount of time, no one else turns up, and you start your journey. What music are you putting on the radio?
I'll just tune it to whatever I can find a frequency for in the area.
Okay, there's a local Pacifica radio. Marco, what's playing on the radio?
What's playing on the radio? Probably, all the grungy hits that you would expect from the 90s. Nirvana, Soundgarden, Pearl Jam, the Cranberries.
Yeah, there's a bit of there's a mixture of all those as you sort of make your way out of Pismo Beach, and yeah, you kind of get onto the main road that kind of comes out of Pismo Beach. Very quickly go onto some of the smaller streets. The reason for that being that a lot of the larger motorways are, one, strewn with a lot of leftovers from the war, but also the bits of road that are clear, you have to end up paying tolls for, which the government, or what's left of the government, costs quite a bit of money. So a lot of people then take a lot of their time and take a lot of their vehicles off of the main roads, which means you have to find your own way around. And you do. You take off in the sort of like misty rain. It's humid. I'm imagining the air conditioning does not work great on the bus. So unless some people have got some windows open, you might get the odd breeze, but it's a fairly bumpy and warm ride.
And this is why it's good not to have a human body.
Indeed. So you drive. You drive for a while, and as you're driving, every now and then on the radio, it crackles through. You lose connection to whatever radio station you're listening to, and a low static hums through the radio. You have to turn the radio off and on, do this a few times. Every now and then, you hear the sound of what sounds like a pulse or slightly louder static. And in between the sort of like static, you can hear the odd word mumbled by someone out somewhere in the distance, somewhere over the airwaves. You drive out into sort of the arid grasslands of the Carrizo Plains. This is on your way out towards, I guess, the central part of Pacifica. As you're getting closer and you're driving this is the duration you need to drive. The static and the pulses become stronger, and in the distance you can see glinting steel. And as you get closer, you can see a whole selection of silos. On top of the silos are all these radio antennas. In the center of the silos, you can see an old church. As you're going past this, your bus suddenly starts to cough and choke, and you lose power to the truck, or to the bus, which means you have to pull over. You pull over onto the side of the road, probably no more than 100 meters away from the silos and this church, and you can feel the static as it hums in your bones.
I'll stand up and point to the front of the thing and be like, engine, thumbs down. And then sort of gesture as in we here for a while time.
Yep.
And then he
your watch.
Opens the door and goes to have a look at the engine.
Okay.
IG-88 will follow him.
Yep. You hop down as you stand on the side of the road. It's very different to Pismo Beach. It's sort of arid winds, long grass, and the soil is sort of this really pale brown, and your feet, your metal feet, crunch the stones and the gravel underneath. All you can hear is wind and this haunting harmony of static as it rushes through at the tops of these silos.
While Roger is looking at the engine, is it possible for IG-88 to just sort of scan the area, the immediate area, for any potential danger?
Absolutely. Shall we do the first roll of the game?
I think we shall.
Let's set the precedent for the rest of this campaign.
Exactly.
So, you want to look around. That's fine. You've got 4 stats: strength, agility, wits, and empathy. This absolutely falls under the wits category. You don't have any skills. This game doesn't have skills. What it does is have talents. Those talents allow you to add bonuses to the roll. So if you had a specific talent that would allow you to observe things in greater detail, it might give you +2 or something to that roll. Also, if you've got any equipment, that also might give you a bonus.
Like binoculars.
Like binoculars, for example.
Right. Well, I have no talent and I have no equipment that would help me, so I'm just going to roll a straight wits roll.
That would be great.
Okay. It's going to be the kind of game where we get no successes.
Okay. Now, under normal circumstances, because you are a drone pilot, you're already in. If you were using this Neurocaster to do something in the Neuroscape and you failed, you would gain what they call a point of bliss. Essentially, every time you fail when you're doing something in this Etherscape, this Neuroscape, when you get to your level of hope and they both level out, it means that you're then caught within the Neuroscape and you stay there forever. So hence, if you were to look at the book, there's lots of pictures of a lot of dead people with these Neurocasters on, and that's because they could never leave the Neuroscape, and so they stopped eating, they stopped drinking, and they just basically died. But thankfully, this is not happening for you because you're a drone. But yes, you look around and you do not see any threats whatsoever, which is why it's very alarming to you that when you turn your back to look at a project fixing or attempting to have a look and see what the problem is with the bus, that a woman says, "Excuse me."
I'm assuming my drone can speak, by the way, so...
Yes, your drone can speak.
Yeah. So I turn around and I look to see who just said, "Excuse me."
You can see a woman wearing, looks like a nun's habit, but instead of the white and black, it's black and red.
That isn't creepy at all. Hello.
Hello there. How are you?
We're just fixing our bus and then we'll be on our way. We're fine. Thank you for asking.
Except at the rest of the people who are sitting on the bus or potentially getting off the bus. What's Raymond doing?
Well, I was sitting on the bus, but I need to stretch my legs and it's getting kind of stinky in here. So I've just come out and poked my head around through the door. What's going on?
Raymond, we're not sure yet. Roger's checking out the engine and then this nun showed up out of nowhere.
None. Well, I think we should have none of that. Yeah, long story short, they spook me. I think we better be a bit careful here.
She's looking at you.
You heard the man. On your way, miss. On your way.
Bye, sister.
Says, okay. I was going to ask if you'd like some lemonade.
IG88, can you have a way of testing this thing out to make sure it's just lemon and water and sugar?
No, I don't think so.
Right. Okay. Well, so who's going to be the first victim to try it?
She says, she puts a hand out to you, Raymond, and says, "Hi, I'm Sister Coyle. Nice to meet you."
Raymond Axelrod, not so sure just yet, but let's wait a while.
Can you please make a wits roll for me?
Yeah, I'm left clicking. Nothing's going on.
I'm just going to quickly refresh. Now try again.
Okay. That doesn't seem to be doing anything.
Well, I will do it for you.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Blame Ed if it's a failure.
Yeah, I blame me, 100%. Well, if it's a pass, that means you want me to roll for everybody.
Nah, then we just accuse you of fudging the dice.
Okay, well, you please know there's no successes either. Yep. Okay. She immediately says, "Okay, well, that's your choice." And she sort of like takes a couple of steps back and just shuts her eyes, and she's sort of like listening. You can feel the wind, the warm, arid wind, as it kind of like gets up some of the dust and it kind of blows through the grass, and you can hear that static and that sort of noise as it kind of whistles through all the silos with all the creaking metal antenna on top. And she's just sounds like she's actually just listening to the sound of the antenna and everything else.
Roger, how's the engine looking?
So, Roger, can you also please in fact, you don't have to make a roll. There's nothing wrong with the engine. It looks like there's an issue with the electrics, and you're trying to figure out what the problem is.
I just kind of look back and just be like, shrug, and just go back to looking through the engine to try and figure out what's wrong with the actual electronics.
Okay. Paul gets off the bus, as does his dog. He basically takes the dog for a short walk down the road to stretch the dog's legs and to go for the, obligatory poop. Tiffany is still on board the bus. It looks like she is just relaxing. Okay. The nun smiles at you and walks back up the little path towards the church.
Well, that was weird, IG-88.
Yeah, that was really weird.
Exactly sure what she was listening to. Whatever it was, I certainly like to have whatever she smoked.
I got a bad feeling about this.
So do I.
Can you please make a empathy roll for me?
Empathy?
Probably not your strongest suit.
No, sir. Uh-oh.
No, you're fine.
Maybe someone will succeed this session.
Yeah.
Well, you can feel something sort of in your electrodes when you kind of like stop and listen. The sound of the humming and buzzing of the antenna sort of start to sort of creep into your sub-processors, and within the sub-processors, you can hear the sound of singing.
What kind of voice is it? Male, female?
It's a choral kind of like voice.
Almost like a heavenly kind of quality?
Yes, yeah, something along those lines.
Can I make out any words?
No, they sound maybe like Latin, potentially, but you don't really understand Latin, so it's kind of a bit like that. It's not quite, it's words, but you can't quite grasp it, I guess is the right. But it is strangely soothing.
Is anyone else hearing this? I'm picking up some kind of strange religious type singing.
The only thing I felt was a strange prickling up the back of my neck. However, maybe I should try turning my portable radio on and see if I can hear that there.
That's a good idea.
So, just hearing static at the moment. Wait, thought I heard something in the background.
Kind of like play around with the tuning.
Yeah.
And
Let's try another channel.
You kind of like switch between all the different channels, and behind there you can hear a lullaby. You can hear the sound of a child giggling, and just behind that child giggling, you can hear the sound of maybe a mother cooing to their child, and then it kind of goes back into static, and it keeps coming backwards and forwards.
Well, I certainly didn't hear any choral singing, but did you hear that, IG-88?
Did I hear it coming out of his radio?
Yep, you did.
Affirmative.
Okay.
I don't like this place.
No, and I haven't even had a drink this morning.
Roger, how long do you think we're going to be here?
Roger kind of turns back and then gives a shrug and then just sort of like points at his watch and then puts up like multiple fingers. As in he's saying like, who knows, a long time maybe.
Any chance I can poke my head in there and see if I can give you a hand?
Yeah, he steps away and sort of like gestures towards it as in help yourself.
You're going to have to like pick the drone up because he is little. The bus is large. So you'd have to like pick him up like a child with a toddler to basically put him up over the sort of like edge. And
here's the question. Is IG and AG88 going to ask for this when he gets up to the vehicle?
Yes, I'm going to have my hands up like, pick me up, but give me a boost.
Roger just kind of like sighs and then just like grabs him by the two hands around his waist and then picks up like a sort of like cat or baby.
As you pick him up, you can feel the static coming from IG-88. It kind of like radiates out of his body down into your hands and into your arms. And you can, at that moment, you kind of hear on the wind, is the best way to describe it for you. One of your parents are calling you by your nickname when you were a kid. Yeah. It's just really soft and it's really in the background, but it is really weird.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he hasn't quite pulled AG-80 out all the way up before he stops and then is kind of like looking off into sort of the middle distance for like a few seconds and then just kind of like shakes his head and then puts AG-88 all the way up.
Okay, right, yeah. I mean, IG-88, you kind of look in. You can't see anything wrong, it looks like an engine of a bus, and you reckon you're going to have to like spend a bit of time trying to figure out what's wrong. And that's fine, you can do that.
Okay.
So yeah, you and Roger can kind of work on that. Raymond, you're going to stay outside, you're going to get back on the bus. Paul is off down the way, kind of like walking his dog, and Tiffany's just sitting on the bus, reading a book.
I'm going to stay where I am and try and observe the situation, see if I can see anything untoward. Part of my gumshoe intuition to keep aware of my surroundings.
Okay, yeah, that's fine. You continue to do that, and you can see that as you probably not long after the nun has gone back into the sort of like little church, the intensity of the buzzing increases through the silos, and you can definitely feel that static picking up. The hairs that were on your back that were starting to raise are now really raised. The static on your radio continues to blurt out small snippets of things. It's almost like someone's captured maybe 3 seconds of a snapshot of something, and it's kind of overridden by the static. But every now and then something comes out. So the baby giggling, a mum cooing. There's potentially maybe a sportscaster telling you that one of the teams have scored a touchdown or a point. It could be what sounds like maybe air traffic controller. It's just these little tiny snippets that kind of come out of the radio here and there, but all underneath this sort of low hum. And every now and then it kind of hums and pulses, and it has like a beat, it has like a sway. There is some kind of musicality to it.
Are you hearing this, IG-88? Roger?
IG's sort of got his head stuck under the hood of the car. He's like on his hands and knees at this point, so he doesn't need Roger to hold him anymore. You know, he's got his knees, his little robot knees or drone knees on the edge of the bus, and then he's sort of right inside, poking around under the hood.
Whatever you're doing, IG-88, I would suggest maybe you try and quicken the pace if you can. There is I feel a distinct static buildup. My radio's picking it up. We need to be very aware that this could lead to something. Something might happen in any minute, and my gumshoe intuition is saying, run like hell.
And he looks up at that point, and he pokes his head around the hood to Raymond, and a clip of Empire Strikes Back, he plays it in, it's Darth Vader's voice telling Boba Fett, no disintegration. So did I learn anything poking my head around in there?
There's obviously something wrong with the electrics, and you'll have to kind of follow the electrics around. It's going to take a bit of time, but you'll probably find it could be a connection that's probably missing. There's nothing intricately
wrong.
No, intrinsically wrong.
Intrinsically wrong.
That's the word I want. With the engine itself. So you reckon somewhere along the line, it's just basically you two have to kind of find a loose connection, get it right. That's pretty much it. And that will take a certain amount of time to do. And I'm more than happy. You'll half the time if both of you do it, which I'm guessing you're going to go ahead and do.
Yes.
Okay. Meanwhile, okay.
I'm no longer touching IG, so I'm not hearing anything anymore.
No, but you've definitely can feel like the static in the air, and so that your hairs are sort of kind of static.
Like before a storm or something like that.
Yeah, just like before a storm. Yeah.
Does it look like there's a sign of a storm on the horizon? Like clouds or anything?
The sky is completely clear. There's sun beating down on you. It's warm. There is a breeze, but it's just a warm breeze. So between the static, the creaking of the metal, and the sound of the wind going through the long grass, there's probably in excess of maybe 60, 70 towers that's sort of on the plane, and it looks like these old silos, and it looks like at some point the silos have been turned into some kind of radio antenna.
Oh, actually, rather than a storm, this is like when you stand too close to a substation or a transformer.
Yeah, that is exactly it, yeah.
Okay, I guess Roger will turn to Raymond, and then just sort of Roger's wearing a very short sleeve sort of Hawaiian shirt all the time. I never described him, but yeah. And he'll sort of just point to all the hairs standing up on his arm, and then just point to the tower.
Raymond says, tell me about it. I know we're standing too close to this and not exactly liking the situation. Being a suspicious person, maybe it's not a loose wiring under there. Maybe the towers had something to do with us draining electricity from the bus. Don't know, but we need to figure out this problem right away. Electricity and flesh don't really go together very well.
At that, Roger shakes his head, and he just sort of makes a gesture of 2 wires, puts his finger together as 2 wires, and then does it as broken, and then points to the bus.
Okay, fine. That's fine, Roger. But like I say, electricity and flesh don't go well together. I'm not exactly sure what these towers are going to do. I would be loath to think if they discharge.
there's sudden barking from down the road, and you can see Paul and the dog coming back towards you.
Are they running, or are they in a hurry?
No, they're walking with purpose, but they're not running.
Notice that walking with purpose then, I believe, and I might ask them, what did you see? What's going on down there?
So as you walk to the end of the bus to go and speak to them as you're coming to see them, Paul points in a direction that obviously you wouldn't have seen because of the hill, and you can see this maybe 20-foot tall robot walking towards you. Large kind of circular body, but it's got sort of rudimentary arms and legs and a whole lot of cables. All the cables are sort of spread out, and they kind of like rain down like a large beard, but with thin strands. And at the end of each strand, you can see a person with a neurocaster on. And you can probably make out 12 or 15 people, all connected to this robot through these long strands coming off its face, essentially.
So RG-8, he turns his head, and when he sees that, he plays another clip from Star Wars. Obi-Wan's voice plays over the speaker, I guess, that he has in his head. Yeah, that isn't creepy at all. And he says, "That's no moon. That's a space station."